Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people. And today with me, we have a veteran businessman, Chris Brecht. Chris, how are you today?
Doing great, Chuck. Thank you.
Glad to have you on the show. Chris is also a man full of Spartan pride, full of Spartan spirit, and we're going to talk a lot about that. But like I said, you're a veteran businessman here in the Conneaut area. You've worked for Andover Bank, currently with State Farm Insurance. Tell us a little bit about Andover Bank, how long you were there and what you did over there.
Sure. I was with Andover Bank for about 8 years. Started with them in 2001 down in Andover. Started in their collections department, worked my way up through the loan department, and then eventually to the branch manager here in Conneaut, and I was with the Conneaut branch for about 4 years before the opportunity came up for me to own the State Farm agency here in Conneaut.
The banking, was that something you always wanted to do, or was that just a starter type thing?
Well, when I was a kid, my father was in banking. He started with Bank One and then People's Bank and then First Merit. So growing up, banking was something that I was always around, and I always said growing up that I either wanted to own my own business or go into banking, because owning my own business was something that I always thought seemed fascinating, and banking was something I was always around. So I've had the chance now to do both, and I think I've kind of been able to check both those boxes off. But yeah, banking is something. Even in high school, I did an internship with the banking. Being around it my whole life, it was something that always intrigued me.
Mm-hmm. Now, Andover Bank here in the Conneaut area, relatively new, but how about countywide? Was it in the other places of the county before here in the
Absolutely,
city?
yeah. Andover Bank has been in the county for well over 100 years at this point.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.
They obviously started in Andover, then they put an office in Austinburg in the 70s, is when they finally started expanding, and then from Austinburg they went to Jefferson, and then Pierpont, and then they started branching out from there. And then after I left Andover, they did quite an expansion where they just in the last couple of years they acquired a bank just over the state line there in PA, and they've about doubled their branch size with an acquisition in Pennsylvania now. So they've become quite a large institution, and for the last several years they've been one of the largest deposit institutions in Ashtabula County. So they've gone from a small one-stop shop in Andover to, and still a community bank, but one of the largest financial institutions, at least in Ashtabula County, as far as banks go in the area. So, and what I always liked about working in Andover Bank is being a community bank, and each branch puts a lot of emphasis in the town that they're in, and Andover Bank as a whole has always emphasizes on the community. They still do a lot of local lending at the branch level. They don't send anything out, where you've got decisions being made from a far distance away. So, or through a computer model or something like that. So there's still even though they're a large institution from the county standpoint, it still kind of has that old-fashioned banking feel. Mm-hmm. So that's what I appreciated about working for Andover Bank, and was very happy with my time with them.
Mm-hmm. Banks today, Chris, better convenient banking hours. I think like 20, maybe 25 years ago, banks sometimes were closed on a Wednesday afternoon, and I don't think a bank was ever open on a Saturday like they are today.
Yeah, you've definitely seen some expansion in the banking hours. And also with like the implementation of banks now at some of the stores and grocery markets, and some of that's scaled back a little bit with the access of ATMs and online banking and things like that. But absolutely, the late Friday nights, a lot of banks are open until 6 or 7 o'clock. Your Saturdays at least till noon or 1. Not so much of the closed on Wednesdays anymore. There's still a few that close Wednesday afternoons, I know that. But you do see the expanded hours, and then, like I said, with the online banking, the access to ATMs, there's definitely more accessibility And some of your financial institutions now, if they're in a grocery store or a shopping center, they're open as late as those stores are. So they've really changed the way that banking is done to kind of keep up with consumers now.
Back in the day on Friday banking days, we got to hurry up and cash your check, get to the bank by 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's so much more convenient now. Plus now there's direct deposit where you don't have to worry about cashing your check. Direct deposit is pretty famous all over now, right?
Yeah, it's become a very common transaction. Businesses enjoy it because it's an easier way to handle the payroll for the staff. Banks enjoy it because it's an easier way. It's one less transaction that they're handling at the teller window, and customers enjoy it as well because they can see that money going into the account and they don't necessarily have to go in to cash that check. So direct deposits become a very common way for people to get paid. They enjoy that quick and convenient way of getting paid. And to go along with that, bill pay. You're turning around and paying your bills electronically now. So not only are you getting paid electronically from your employer, but you're turning around and you're paying your bills electronically. Whether it's your utility bills or, you can, with some of your bill pay features now, you can pay your babysitter electronically. You can pay almost anything online.
It's amazing,
now. It really is. So there's a lot of advancements that we've seen in banking even in the last 5 or 10 years that have made things more convenient. Now some people like that, some people don't. I can take a picture of a check now with my phone and I can deposit it electronically, and I don't even have to take that check into the bank anymore. I can just deposit it with a photograph. So there's a lot of different advancements that have been made over the last couple of years.
And like you say, there's a lot of preference. There's some people still like to go inside the bank, like me, rather than going through the drive-thru.
Absolutely.
I don't know why, but I'd rather go inside the bank. Maybe it's to get into the air conditioning in this 90-degree heat. Maybe that has something to do with it. Chris Brecht is my guest, of course, a veteran businessman, as they said, here on Around the Town with Chuck. Now you are the owner, as you said, of State Farm Insurance. When did you move over there?
Well, I opened up the agency in April of '09. So I actually started training with State Farm in August of 2008. So that's when I left Andover Bank and I had to start my training process, if you will. They put you through a fairly rigorous training program where I had to spend a lot of time actually down in just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, where I had to go through like a week of training down there and then a week of training up here. And then I had to do some on-site training at different offices around Ohio to kind of learn the trade, if you will, and do different licensing and things like that. But there was about 6 to 8 months of training before I could open up my agency. So I officially opened doors in April of '09, and I've been doing it ever since.
And you have all the insurances there, right? Auto, home, and health.
Auto, home, life, business, and there's some health that we do, mostly on the disability side, Medicare supplements, things like that. Some of the newer health insurance we're not doing at our agency, but we do refer it to places that can handle it. So,
what are some of the newest trends in the insurance business? What's out there? Give us some updates on all this.
Well, there's a lot of different things that we see and a lot of different questions that come up. For instance, like on the auto insurance, a lot of people have been asking about, I'll call it the driverless car, but the automated cars.
Yes,
and like with
that
that Tesla car that just had the accident.
Yes,
And how's that going to affect auto insurance and my premiums and things like that. And from everything that we've seen and everything that we've heard, there's really nothing out there right now that is going to take away someone's ability to fully function driving their car and to take those decisions away. Because even in that situation where the gentleman had that accident, it wasn't even advised for him to completely ignore the fact that he should have been paying attention to what was going on. None of these cars are made to be fully automated yet, where you can completely sit back, take a nap, and ignore what's going on. And you need to be paying attention to what's going on in your surroundings, because nothing is foolproof. And so, we're not to the point now where a car is going to completely take over from point A to point B, and you can just sit there and be a complete passenger. So, auto insurance is always going to be something that you're going to need, because there isn't going to be a car, at least in our lifetime, a car that's going to take over all the responsibilities and therefore assume that risk would transfer to the manufacturer of that automobile. So that's something that's been kind of a hot topic in the auto industry lately. That we've had a lot of conversations that have come up. On the homeowner side, in this area especially, we get a lot of people that ask questions about wind and how their homeowner's policy handles wind damage. So that's something that we frequently discuss: wind damage, trees, things like that.
Is that a separate insurance, like storm insurance?
It's not. It's typically part of your policy. Now, some companies handle wind damage a little bit differently than others. For instance, some companies will have a different deductible level, where you may have a $500 or $1,000 deductible on your homeowner's policy for normal claims, and a higher deductible for wind claims, because wind tends to be a more common claim. So the insurance company will put a separate deductible for wind-only claims. State Farm does not do that at this time. Everything changes, but we have the same deductible no matter what type of claim it is right now on your homeowners. So whether it's a wind claim, a fire claim, a water damage claim, we have the same deductible on a homeowner's policy, depending on what you set when you originally took out your policy. But the most common claim that we see on a homeowner's policy in this area tends to be wind damage, where some people refer to it as roof damage. We get a bad storm up here, someone's shingles blow off, or it damages the shingles, so they get some water damage in the house. Even though there's water damage in the house, we refer to that as wind damage, because it damaged the roof, which is what caused the water to enter the home. So those are the most common things we see up here. Or the wind, caused a tree to fall on the house. So while that may be a tree, we're going to consider that wind damage, because the wind is what caused the damage for them to sustain. So those are, probably 90% of the homeowners' claims that we see up in this area. And that's typically where most of our questions come with the homeowners policies.
What about flood insurance and tornado insurance? Is that tornado insurance is different from the wind?
Actually, a tornado, there isn't a special policy for tornadoes. So a tornado damage, damage that you would see from a tornado would be considered 9 times out of 10 wind related. So, there could be some ancillary damage that comes with a tornado, but in general, that's gonna fall under that wind-related activity. So there isn't a special tornado policy, if you will. Now, when you get into flood is its own animal, if you will. And flood is a separate coverage. It is a separate policy. And flood insurance is something that it's actually, most people will not ever carry flood insurance unless they are told they have to. And when I say they're told they have to, going back to the banking days, typically when you go to get a loan on a property, one of the first things the bank's going to do is they are going to do a flood determination on that property as part of their valuation on the property. They're going to check and see if your home is in a flood zone. They use these 100-year-old flood maps, is what the term is called. And every house in the area, in every area across the country, has been mapped to see if it's in a certain zone and what flood zone you're rated. And depending on what zone you're in, you may or may not be in what's considered a flood zone. And if you're in a flood zone, then the banks are going to require you to carry flood insurance in order for you to get a loan on that property. And if they require you to carry flood insurance, then it's actually a policy that you get through the government. Now, those are policies that myself or a lot of other insurance companies can facilitate for you, but it's actually through the National Flood Insurance Program. And they're a very standardized plan that covers for flood damage. Water damage to a home is a very limited coverage within a homeowner's policy for water. It all depends on how the water damages your home. And a lot of people will say there's water damage from flooding. Well, is it flooding because your hot water tank burst? Or is it flooding because of a bad rainstorm? Or is there flooding because you're in a flood plan and you literally had a flood? So depending on what that water damage is would determine whether there's coverage or not, and then how we're going to take care of that. So flood insurance is pretty unique.
Flood insurance, say within the last 10 years, or have we always had
No,
flood insurance?
it's I don't know how long it's been out there, but it's been out there at least probably for the last 30 or 40 years. And it's going beyond my time, but I know, I mean,
We hear
if
more
you
about
add
it
my
now.
7 years in insurance and 8 years in banking, it's been around at least that long, because as long as I've been at the bank, it's been in place. But to go beyond that, I'm not old enough to answer the question.
We hear so much about it now, that's why I was kind of asking that question. What are your hours over at State Farm Insurance?
We're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we don't have Saturday hours at this time. It's what I do for my customers is, while we're 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, if I have customers that need to meet on the weekend or in the evenings, I make myself available. But if it's just typically to make a payment or something like that, because we have the online features, because we have a night drop, they can stop in any time to drop those off at the office, or they can make their payments online. But if they ever need to meet with me, or if they need to have an appointment, I make myself available in the evenings or weekends.
Let's switch gears a little bit
Sure.
and get into some sports here. Speaking of making yourself available, you are, like I said at the beginning of the show, full of Spartan pride, spirit. You recently had an alumni game. I think July 2nd it was. Normally you have it in June, but this year you had it July 2nd. Talk a little bit why you changed from June to July and how that's going for us.
Sure. This was the third year we've had the alumni game, and the first year I think we did it early June, like maybe June 11th, and then we pushed it back to like June 26th, and then this year we did it July 2nd. And the actual reason that we did it July 2nd was what we were originally planning on doing, both last year and this year, was we'd wanted to pair it up with the Harry Church golf outing. Both years, the goal was to pair it up. The idea was to have it as one big weekend. People were coming into town for both and doing both at the same time.
Mr. Sports, Harry Church.
Yes. Last year, we had this forecast for this horrific rainstorm that was coming into town. And the golf outing, they postponed it. We got our football game in just in time before the rain hit, but they changed the date of the golf outing at the last second because they knew the rain was coming, and they pushed the golf outing back later in the year. So it didn't pair up just at the last second. This year, I got a hold of Tom Church because I sponsor the Harry Church golf outing, so it works out for me. It's perfect timing. And he said, we're going to do the golf outing July 2nd. I said, okay, then we'll do the alumni game Friday, July 1st. We'll keep it, bookend together in the weekend. He liked the idea of having it 4th of July weekend, figured a lot of people would be in town.
Right.
Made perfect sense. So back in January, we set this whole thing up, got everything planned, got a hold of the company that puts the game on for us, and we booked Friday, July 1st as the alumni game. I don't know, must have been late February, early March. Tom got a hold of me, and something had come up where the church family needed to change the date of their golf outing from July 2nd to whatever it was in June. I think it was June 18th. They moved it up because of some commitments they had come up. So at that point in time, I didn't feel that we could really move the alumni game up, but I really liked the idea of switching it from Friday to Saturday and I contacted the Alumni Football USA, who helps put the game on for us, and they didn't foresee an issue moving it one day back. I was really concerned because the 4th of July parade was Friday night, and I didn't want to conflict with the parade. So when that Saturday became available, we moved the game from Friday to Saturday and thought we can still, even though we're not paired up with the Harry Church golf outing, we're still the same weekend of the 4th of July. I figured there'll be a lot of people in town, not conflicting with the parade, not conflicting with the fireworks, and it would still be a good fit. Because if we were to try to move it up too early, it really affects, we'd already requested donations and things like that from a lot of national corporations and things like that. And once you put a date out there, you can't really change it from a donation request standpoint. So that's how we came up with the July 2nd date. We also felt the later in the summer you get, the more consistent your weather should be. We'd had some, the earlier games with colder dates.
It was
the
darn right
rain.
cold that first year. With
It
that
was.
wind. I remember.
So,
I did that game.
yeah.
I remember it was chilly.
So
I've seen warmer high school football.
the nice thing about early is you still have the kids in school when you're advertising and promoting. So it's a little bit easier from that standpoint, but the weather is more of a wild card. Whereas later in the summer, the weather is much more consistent, but you're getting farther and farther removed from the school year, so it makes it a little bit harder for promoting, advertising, for the kids, like for the junior cheerleaders that participate. But that all still came together pretty good. We were still able to get all the players involved. We had a really good donation response for the Chinese auction that we put together. So it all came together quite nicely.
But attendance?
The attendance was good. It wasn't as high as the previous 2 years. It was down a little bit.
Probably because of the festival.
I
maybe?
think partly because of the festival, and I think partly because it was just the third year. And what the company that puts this on had told me is typically your first year is your best attendance, and then it starts to wane a little bit after that. And they say you have both in attendance and in getting people willing to play. And the first year, I think we had like 60 guys sign up to play, and by the third year, we had 28.
How do you find the players?
Well, we do mostly, we put requests out through Facebook. We talk to prior graduates, and I went through the old programs and found names of guys that played, and we hit them up on Facebook and said, hey, do you want to play again? And you find one guy and have him talk to 4 or 5 guys that he graduated with, and some of them still lived in town, some of them didn't. So you have guys, some of them were 4 or 5 hours away, and they couldn't make the practices, but they were going to be there the day of the game. And some of the guys played all 3 years. Some played 1, some played 2. So there was some turnover in who some of the players were, but I'd say about 15 or 20 of them played all 3 years.
That's
and
one. I
they
think
really
it's just
enjoyed it.
wonderful. A wonderful event. How do you find the opponent?
Well, the company that puts this on is supposed to find the opponent for us, but the first year, to me, it was a no-brainer. We needed to play Edgewood. And so when I contacted the company, I said, we really want to play Edgewood. He said, well, Edgewood has a team. So he reached out to the Edgewood team, and they said, yeah, we'd love to play Conneaut. The second year, he said, well, I don't know if you're going to play Edgewood. By that point in time, we knew some of the Edgewood players. So we contacted the Edgewood team and said, we want to play you guys again. They said, okay. We played Edgewood again. This past year, it just didn't look like, this would have been Edgewood's 6th year, and they just were they didn't have enough guys to field a team. But what happened this year was a player from Jefferson actually called me and said, we came and watched your game against Edgewood last year, and we saw how many people you had at your game, and we saw the event, and we want to come to Conneaut. We don't care that a lot of people want to have the game at their place because they have the chance to make some money, they have the chance to have all their fans there.
Sure.
We don't care about that. We saw how many people you had at Conneaut. We want to come play you. That's all we care about. So they reached out to us, and so we contacted Alumni Football USA and said, we want to play Jefferson. They said, Jefferson's not going to have enough guys. We're not going to do it. I said, well, Jefferson says they're going to have enough guys. That's who we want to play. And it wasn't until a month before the game that we got them to agree to let us play Jefferson. And both Jefferson and Conneaut, our numbers were kind of low until the very end. And that was another thing that kind of hurt our ticket sales. Was it wasn't until 2 weeks before the game that they actually gave us permission to start selling our pre-sale tickets. Whereas in the past, we'd had a month to sell tickets in advance. They wanted to wait until we had X number of players signed up on both sides, because they didn't want us to sell tickets and then not have a game and then have to refund people their money. So that made things a little bit difficult as well. But ultimately, it was still a great event.
What kind of referees do you use?
We use high school officials. It's a regular high school officiating crew. There's a few modifications that are made for this game versus a high school game. Like, they're not allowed to blitz, and they don't do, other than the first half and the second half kickoffs, they don't do any other kickoffs throughout the game. But other than that, it's same high school rules.
12-minute quarters.
12-minute quarters, and I think we only did maybe a 10-minute halftime to kind of speed things along, but everything else is same as high school rules.
Very good. Let's move on to something else. We'll close with this as you got coming up. Of course, the high school football season is just around the corner. Conneaut going into this new conference, so we'll see some new opponents. But you have, and this is called the Whiteout game, and that'll be the home opener this year. September 2nd, I believe it is, against
September 2nd? Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was the home opener or the second home game, but it's September 2nd.
It's the home opener, and normally you haven't had too much luck with the weather on these things. When we play Champion, it's like this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like 90 degrees,
Yeah.
and I'd like to see some good weather because I know you'd have much better support.
Yeah, and we almost always play Champion for the Whiteout game. It's like Champion seems to always be up there, and it's funny because the head coach for Champion, his wife is a State Farm agent.
Is that right?
Yeah, so she always comes up and stops in and sees me when we're doing it.
That's wonderful.
But so it's either really hot or it's raining for these games. But we still always have a great turnout for the Whiteout, and we've been tweaking it every year. We've added shirts. We've over the last couple of years, we've added the carnival. We've made the carnival a little bit bigger, which we call the tailgate party, and we get the kids to come out. CLYO introduces their football team and cheerleaders as part of the pregame, so all the kids are there for that. We get a lot of community support as far as donations for the prizes for the kids. The Rock Church brings their inflatables, so the kids have something to play on. So we get a lot of support as far as that goes. A lot of people come out, and the first year we did about 470 shirts, and which of course we do it as a fundraiser for the Downtown Coaches Club. We have all the shirts made, and then I donate all the shirts to the Downtown Coaches Club. They sell the shirts for $5 a piece, and then the entire $5 goes to them as a fundraiser. And we've increased the number of shirts every year. I think last year we did about 820 shirts.
Wow.
And this year our goal is 1,000 shirts, because every year we've sold out of shirts, and we didn't even have shirts by noon on Friday. We were sold out of shirts.
That's a lovely problem.
Yeah, that's a great problem to have. And there's people that are asking for shirts and we don't have them, and we're running out of sizes by Wednesday. There's certain sizes we're sold out of. So,
but you sell them right there at State Farm.
We sell them at State Farm. We sell them at the middle school and the high school, and then we take bulk orders for businesses, and we take bulk orders at the 2 elementary schools. So like the teachers can take bulk orders so that they have them to wear on Friday. But a lot of the businesses now, what we do is we send out an order form, and then they'll take bulk orders so that all of the employees can wear them on Friday. So like the library wears them on Friday, Conneaut Savings will wear them on Friday, Port Conneaut wears them on Friday, Dairy Queen wears them on Friday. So, which is great, because then anywhere you go in town, you'll see all of these employees wearing the Whiteout shirts all day. And it's just a great way to get people excited for the game. But our goal is to do 1,000 shirts this year.
You're going to hit it.
And I think we'll sell them out. And then you'll just have that many more people wearing them, that many more people hopefully coming to the game. That should raise $5,000 for the Downtown Coaches Club, which is just one more way to help support the football team, and then hopefully have all 1,000 people there at the game. And as I tell people, if you don't want to buy the shirt, that's fine. Wear one of your old shirts. Just wear something white. Come to the game, support the team, and hopefully we'll see another victory.
It's really a great thing you do. And mark it down, Chris. You're going to have warm weather and you're going to have
Dry.
clear skies. Chuck Bugliano said so. And then if it doesn't, well then pretend you don't know.
Yeah.
I'll pretend I can't.
We'll delete that part
Yeah,
out.
we'll delete that part out. Well, you do a great job with that.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Chris Brecht, State Farm Insurance, owner of State Farm Insurance, my guest today. And that's another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. See you next week.